Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony the Quano.
So, Tony, let's talk about an often forgotten movie. Well, I don't know if I'd really say quite forgotten, but overlooked comedy of 1984.
I would agree Overlooked is probably correct. I think people that have seen it have not forgotten it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, it's definitely a memorable movie if you've seen it.
Seems like maybe it's gained kind of a new, I shouldn't say a new following, but it's been reassessed maybe.
Yeah.
Because I did see that this was kind of considered a flop at the time. So yes, Overlooked is very apt.
So that movie, of course, is the 1984 Val Kilmer classic, Top Secret.
His first starring role, I believe, too.
Was this his first starring role?
Huh. I believe it was.
Yeah, because it was a couple of years before Top Gun.
It's before Top Gun. And yes, it is. Yeah, first big role. And he delivers.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. But from the Zaz trio.
Mm-hmm.
Previously known for the comedy classic Airplane.
Yes.
It's their, not quite their follow-up, I guess, because Police Squad was, they did that kind of in between. And then this came out a few years after Police Squad debuted on TV. But the theatrical follow-up. It's obviously a spoof, but it's done very differently than Airplane.
Yes. Yes, it is.
But it's unfortunate that's overlooked, or maybe not, because it's one of those gems that you discover. It's like, how come no one talks about this movie?
I know, because it's one of those ones that once you watch it, you wonder where it's been your whole life.
Yes, but at the same time, it's like, this is my treasure.
Yeah.
And you want to share it with others, but you don't want to let too many people know about it. Only very special people.
Yes. Yes. It's a very, very special movie.
And, I think that until this week, I've only seen the movie 2 times. I mean, this was my second time, I should say. The first time was long ago.
Yeah, the first time we saw it, we both saw it together.
Yes.
Yeah, we were at our old roommate Steve's apartment before we all got an apartment together, and he wanted to show it to us. He's like, "Have you guys seen Top Secret? Let's watch it."
Steve's a hilarious dude.
Yes.
So if he's recommending something,
absolutely.
A comedy, I pay attention when he recommends a comedy.
Yes. And so the three of us watched it, and none of us were disappointed.
None of us were disappointed.
We were rolling. We were laughing.
I might have forgotten a lot of the night because I was a little bit inebriated.
Yes, there was beer involved. But
I watched it again, and it was hilarious. And certain stuff I remembered really, really well. And and it came back. And I'm disappointed because I was thinking I was going to introduce myself as Chocolate Mousse.
Yes, Chocolat Mousse.
Or would I be
Chocolate
Vanilla Mousse?
Or how about Deja Vu?
Have we met? But fun thing about this, I'm sure maybe the dive into this, I'm not certain, but there's a few actors in here that are appropriate, especially some of the smaller actors. But Soufflé, right? Mm-hmm. Soufflé is actually a noted stuntman that has a very small uncredited role in this movie, but he's most famous for being Mark Hamill's stunt double in Star Wars. So there's a lot of interesting little connections in this movie as well. So
good old Colin Skeeping.
Yes, Colin Skeeping. But besides Val Kilmer, like Airplane, one of the things it was noted for, and kind of one of the things it was spoofing off of, was disaster movies of the 70s, like The Towering Inferno, which, by the way, starred Gene Hackman, who sadly passed away today.
Yes, he did.
Which we will discuss later. But we should probably up front mention that he did pass away today, very tragically.
On the day of recording this.
So, both very big fans of his career.
Yes, absolutely.
We will discuss that a little bit more at the end of the episode. But yeah, The Towering Inferno, Poseidon Adventure, and a movie that's just called Airport.
Yep.
And all these disaster movies of the 70s had big cast. So Airplane had a lot of cameos in the movie. And if you've seen Airplane, obviously you know this. And maybe if you haven't seen Airplane, you probably know that as well. I mean, some of them you just
if you haven't seen Airplane, do yourself a favor and check it out. It's a funny movie.
And even if you haven't, before even seeing it, if you haven't seen it, you can even just YouTube some clips before you even watch the whole thing. I would recommend Barbara Billingsley, Jive.
Yes. Yes. The Jive talking.
Yeah.
Yes.
It'd be a very easy thing to YouTube. Anyway, this has less cameos. It does have a few specific ones. It does have Peter Cushing.
Yes, it does.
I guess I wouldn't call it a cameo because he has 2 scenes with Omar Sharif. I guess maybe it's 3 scenes.
Yeah, I think it's 3. He's actually in a decent chunk of the beginning of the movie.
The first like quarter of the movie. Yeah. And Michael Gough is in this as well.
Yes, he is. Alfred himself.
So, but he's also not really a cameo. He's got a couple scenes also, but kind of extended scenes. Peter Cushing's the one like cameo.
Yeah, he's the one cameo. He's only got one scene, and it's
So it doesn't kind of feature that aspect that Airplane had. Instead, it's just kind of riffing off multiple kind of genres. You kind of have the French Resistance war movie, which is kind of popular, at least on the French side, like the 60s and early 70s. A little bit of the spy movies, World War II escape movies. There's somewhat like kind of this Steve McQueen type.
Then there's also like the musical movies, like the Elvis movies.
The Elvis movies.
You know?
Which is kind of I find that part like fascinating because for today's audience, everyone knows Elvis, but I think there's a lot of people that don't know about the Elvis movie.
Yeah.
There are Elvis movies.
Yes. Elvis is his own genre of movie. Which even for people probably in like 1984, like, oh yeah, like that was a thing in the 60s, but mostly probably forgotten about. But yeah, there was an Elvis genre of movies, and this spoofs off of them. Yep.
Val Kilmer was kind of the Elvis type.
And it also spoofs off of the Beach Boys.
That too. Yeah. So it's all over the place, but it's in some ways almost a more linear story than Airplane.
Yeah.
But, it gets so many other like movie references in there that some are like really obscure and like they really take their time to build to. Like I mean, maybe we can put this in the show notes, but like I found some stuff that's like really out there. So
yeah, I mean, you watch this movie, the way it starts out, you'd never expect there to be a Blue Lagoon reference.
No, an extended Blue Lagoon reference. Like there's an entire Blue Lagoon scene. It's like it's basically a very abridged version of Blue Lagoon is in this movie.
Yes. It's an entire Blue Lagoon sequence right in the middle of the movie. Then we'll get to that.
Yeah, there's everything. But yeah, this is the thing I wrote about it too, which I didn't realize is, I guess, allegedly, I shouldn't say allegedly, but there is an interview from several years back, so maybe this has changed. I doubt it, because once you reach a certain age, your favorite movie kind of gets set in stone. I can't remember if it's his favorite or if it's his favorite comedy of all time, but Weird Al Yankovic adores this film. And
I could see that. I could definitely understand that.
If Weird Al's loving this, that should also be a clue.
Yes.
So like for us, like we know Steve Heaton. So if he recommends it, it's a personal recommendation that we can definitely give,
we can take that to the bank.
But someone listening to this, maybe not. But Weird Al Yankovic, if he's giving his thumbs up to a comedy, you should probably listen.
Probably.
And like you said,
not only does Weird Al know comedy, but he knows parody.
He knows parody, exactly.
And this is definitely a parody movie.
This is a parody. They play up the drama sometimes, but it's definitely a parody. There's not quite the Leslie Nielsen kind of straight man.
Yeah.
That's in this, except the Germans, I guess.
Yeah.
But they're German. They're always straight. Whatever. I mean, maybe not the.
There's how so. Anyway. Okay, so how many movies now have we done with Nazis in them? How many movies have we done that take place during World War II?
Well, there's 3 Indiana Jones movies. There's 2 Indiana Jones movies without Nazis. There's this. It's funny. This movie actually takes place well after, but there's still Nazis.
Yeah, and there's Casablanca.
There's also a Hitler clock in this movie. So
there is a Hitler clock in this movie.
It's got the hands.
Isn't it one hand and one leg, or like one arm and one leg? The hands in the clock.
It's like in the pizza restaurant. A pizza restaurant in Germany.
They're a pizza house. where people are wearing poodle skirts in the 40s.
Yeah, it's like a sock hop or whatever those were called.
But yeah, a decade too early. I don't know. Maybe that style hit Germany before it hit America. I don't know.
They were really depressed about losing the war, so they did it the sock hop.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Das sock hop?
Don't side with Hitler.
Yeah.
Is that the moral of the story?
Probably.
All right. Does Die Hard count?
I mean, I think that's the moral of life.
don't side with Hitler. That's it, folks. You learn the meaning of life on Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure.
On the episode when we talk about Top Secret. I mean, the meaning of life is kind of top secret, right?
It is. There you go. It fits.
Are we going to consider Die Hard like a... does that have Nazis?
No, they're not.
No,
they're just German thieves.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not Nazis.
No Nazis in Predator. Definitely no Nazis in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. No Nazis in Batman or Iron Man
or Rudy.
The Mummy's close to that time period, but no.
No Nazis. Well, The Mummy's more World War I era.
Yeah, it's a little bit earlier. It's true.
Kind of surprisingly, no Nazis showed up in Bill and Ted.
Goebbels. Just hanging out with them. Hey, we could maybe... The Big Lebowski, they mention the Nazis.
Yes, they do. They do.
They're threatening castration.
Yes. I think we can count that.
There we go. All right. Yeah, they show up in a lot.
Oh, Nazis in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
That's right.
During the opening credit sequence when they're going through World War II.
That's a sneaky one.
Yep.
Yeah. Nazis everywhere. And this won't be the last one, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Because, we might end up doing First Class. There's Nazis in that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we did something like Saving Private Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of Nazis in that movie.
Yes.
Do App Pupil with Ian McKellen.
Yeah, which is weird because he plays complete opposite characters between that and X-Men.
Yes. Like if Brad Pitt decided to play a Nazi in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure one of these days we'll probably end up doing Inglourious Bastards or something.
We do need to do more Tarantino movies.
Yes, we
got to
do.
find the right time to do it, though.
Yes, we will be doing more Tarantino movies. But yeah, like you said, we got to find the right time to do it.
What was that movie? Was it Rat Race? Where the baby accidentally gets the little Hitler mustache? I remember there's some movie.
Yeah, that could be Rat Race, but then there's also Euro Trip with the little kid that starts doing the Nazi march.
That's right. Talk about that. That's also sad. Michelle Trachtenberg.
Yeah.
If we want to do The Great Dictator, Charlie Chaplin, where he just spoofs off of Hitler while Hitler's in power.
Yeah.
Talk about being a badass.
Yeah.
We've talked about that lately.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah. Well, anyway, back to Top Secret.
It's always great when there's a movie mocking Nazis.
Also great when there's movies where you drive them off cliffs.
Yes.
Or
while a Wilhelm scream
burn their faces off with the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes. Their face melts, heads explode, heads shrivel up.
Or drive them off a cliff in the Panzer.
Yeah. While they hang on to the turret of the tank as it falls apart.
I highly recommend our Last Crusade episode.
Yes. That was such a fun one to record.
Anyway, back to Top Secret.
Back to Top Secret.
We should probably jump into Top Secret.
We probably should.
We already started talking about the Nazi clock.
Yes,
which we probably should. In the movie very briefly.
So, before we get started, as always, spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about this entire movie, beginning, middle, and end. So if you have not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, pause the podcast, watch the movie, come back and listen. It's a short movie. It's only an hour and a half long. So,
yeah, I mean, even
it's a quick watch. But if you don't mind being spoiled, then keep on listening. But you have been warned. We will be spoiling every bit of this movie, including the Hitler clock. Which we've already spoiled.
We already spoiled that. We spoiled some of the cameos. If you're like to be surprised by cameos, sorry. So we do start though with Omar Sharif, and he's on a train, right? Well, he's on top of a train.
Yes, he's on top of a train, being chased by a big Nazi.
Just that like classic type of fight on top of a train.
Yeah.
We've talked about Indiana Jones. Those movies have fights on
Dial
trains.
of Destiny started out with a fight on top of a train.
That movie was like 40 years after this. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking about that. It's like, oh yeah, it's kind of like Dial of Destiny.
Yeah.
Last Crusade had a train.
There was a fight on top of the train.
There was a chase. Yeah,
there was. Chase. There were sequences of chase, of a fight, but it was more of a chase. Yeah.
But very different fight, But obviously, you realized, you got an Englishman fighting a Nazi, and you side with the Englishman.
Mm-hmm. Obviously.
I hope you do.
Yeah.
If you don't,
remember the meaning of life. Don't side with Hitler.
Because guess what happens if you side with Hitler? You're standing on top of a train and you just get plowed through a bridge. You know, I mean, this dude doesn't die yet.
No,
you know?
not yet. But yeah, he's Omar Sharif, Agent Cedric. He's on one end of the train car, and the big Nazi's on the other end with his back turned to the tunnel, or to the bridge that they're about to go under. And Omar Sharif sees it, drops down in the prone position so he can go under it, and the Nazi just stands there and takes the bridge in his back and just breaks through all the bricks and everything.
Think about Speed, but, you know, Keanu Reeves is Omar Sharif.
Yeah.
And Dennis Hopper's this Nazi.
Yeah.
But Dennis Hopper lost his head in that. Sorry for spoiling Speed. That movie is 30 years old.
Yes.
And we will do Speed one day.
And we find out that Keanu Reeves is taller than Dennis Hopper.
I should dive into that movie because, like, you know, he gets taller. He could have said, "I'm bigger."
He could have.
It almost had the same meaning.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anyway, he just plows through the bridge.
We'll get into that when we talk about Speed.
So, tall Nazi dude plows the bridge, takes out part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's still standing because he's a tall, big, buff German dude, right? But Omar Sharif escapes.
And the bridge was probably built by Nazis, so.
No big deal that's been destroyed. That's not what I was looking for. Anyway, so we kind of cut into kind of like a command center for German generals and army dudes. And they're discussing plans, right?
And they have their entertainment was canceled at the last minute. The person they had to come in, Leonard Bernstein canceled at the last minute. So they had to get a replacement.
Well, the Soviet dude did not cancel, though. You know, but.
No, he was still coming, but that's still a little ways in. But
they talk about him, right? But yeah, I mean, they have a plan to put on a music festival because they want to distract the world so that they can. Well, we got to remember. I guess we should preface this because some people might not be aware. This is 1984. This thing was built in Germany called the Berlin Wall.
Yes,
and it separated the sides of Germany.
Yep. And
the one side was aligned with the communists, and the other side was free, democratic. So you have the East Germans were the ones, you know, aligned with the communists at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who the bad guys in this movie, the East Germans. Right? They want to reunite Germany, but under their rule.
Yes.
And they're going to do this in the middle of this music festival. And they have to get a replacement.
So they look, and one of the most popular music artists of the time is an American named Nick Rivers,
played by Val Kilmer. And so they get an LP, and they're gonna start to play it. And the lead general's like, "Oh, I'm sure he'll be fine." What's his name? His name is
General Streck.
General Streck, played by Jeremy Kemp. So, I don't know a lot about him. He is English. He was in the was it the Elizabeth Taylor Cleopatra movie? That's a movie that I definitely know. He was in the TV miniseries of George Washington around the time this came out.
Interesting.
Also, what? No. Anyhow, so yeah, and then so they start to play it, and they start playing the music, and kind of Beach Boyish type music.
Yes, very Beach Boyish type music, which is strange because this takes place during World War II. The Beach Boys weren't a thing yet. But the song that's playing is a song that is very similar to Surfing USA.
Yes, but it's called skeet surfing.
Yes, it's called skeet surfing.
Not Skeet Ulrich.
Nope.
For all Skeet Ulrich fans.
We found out why it's called skeet surfing really quick. Because as the record starts playing, then it cuts to a beach. While the music's playing, and it's all these people running to the water carrying shotguns.
Shotguns and surfboards.
And they're getting on their surfboards and they're going out. They're surfing and they're skeet shooting.
And there's other people staying on the beach and they're launching skeet. Launching clay pigeons. Right?
And there's one woman laying on her stomach on the beach, and one of the guys runs by and she kind of pops up. And there's perfect indents in the sand of her boobs.
There are a lot of boob jokes in this movie.
Yes, there are. I mean, it's a Zucker Brothers movie.
I shouldn't say. I mean, boob gags. Boob gags in this.
Yes, boob gags. Yes, it's a Zaz movie. So yes, there's going to be a lot of just random jokes.
But like, it's a thing. It's like they make a point that most of the people on here, like college kids or early 20s, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of girls in bikinis, and there's everybody's running. Yeah, it just, and then they start destroying. Obviously they're not hitting all the skeet. They're missing their targets and hitting other things, and they're damaging everything. Right?
Because they're surfing while they're trying to shoot skeet, and so of course they're going to be missing their targets sometimes.
But yeah, I would say it's unexpected, but of course it's unexpected, but you should be expecting something completely off the wall.
Yeah,
and that's what it does. And it ends finally. It shows like the billboard that's announcing like an act at the Madison Square Garden. It's Nick Rivers, Stevie Wonder, Linda Ronstadt, and at this time, Frank Sinatra.
If there's time, Frank Sinatra. But Nick Rivers is the biggest name.
Yes, he's the main act. So because
I love that.
What happens?
If there's time, Frank Sinatra.
All the people that brought their kids. We had Frank Sinatra.
Which again, this was the 40s.
So it finally fades in and back, and then it's this like countryside on this train, and Nick Rivers is there, and he's listening to a German tape to brush up on his German,
and he's there with his. Is that his producer?
It's his producer or agent. I don't know. Or maybe it's someone that the State Department sent with him to. Because
it might have been that. Yeah, because he was an ambassador basically for America in Germany.
Yes,
because he was an American who was invited to go over there and perform.
Mm-hmm. So, and then you see him looking out the plane, out. You see him. You see that he's painting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it turns out the train, it's going through the countryside, so it's just zooming by.
Mm-hmm. And he's sort of putting his thumb up, and trying to get a good read on what he's painting, and
like right away, you're like. You see he's looking outside. Mm-hmm. He's not looking in the train car. He could be looking at the other dude. And
he's looking out the window. Portrait. And then it shows what he's painting, and it's just a bunch of blurry trees.
But and, like all the he's still listening to tape, but everything's like about Lederhosen and yeah, it's anyway. So that's right. There is sauerkraut in my Lederhosen.
There was sauerkraut in my Lederhosen. Which, I mean, I wonder if that's actually a serious problem when you're wearing lederhosen. I've never worn lederhosen, but if I do ever wear lederhosen, I'm going to make sure to eat some sauerkraut to just see if it's an issue.
I mean, I would hope not, unless you're a Nazi, and then like you can get sauerkraut in your lederhosen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be just fine in that case.
But if you're not a Nazi, I would hope you don't get sauerkraut in your lederhosen.
Yeah.
So the train stops, and they're wondering, and they're like, "Oh, we must be at a checkpoint." And, make sure they have the passports come in, and the general comes into their little car, and he's like,
and Nick Rivers speaks German to him.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Because the guy he's with doesn't speak German.
They show the passports, and then looking out, and there's this guy that gets kind of arrested by the police for what was he carrying? I can't remember what he was carrying.
Oh, he was
kind of. I don't know.
There's a lot of background gags in this movie.
And then they take him off. It's like, oh, what are they doing with him? They're like, oh, they're not taking him anywhere. And you hear a gunshot.
Yeah, you hear a gunshot.
And they open up what package he has, and it's just like, it was something random.
Yeah.
It's like, what? There's no reason to kill this dude, except just to show that you're Nazis.
Yep. And then it shows out the window. It looks like they're pulling away from the station, but it's actually the station pulling away from them. The train's still sitting still. Turns out the station's on wheels.
It's such a weird looking gag because like you double take. I was like, wait, what did I just watch? That doesn't look right. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so then we kind of cut to a scene now, and we're back with Cedric, Omar Sharif, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's this vendor on the street.
Yes,
he's blind.
There's a blind novelty
and
vendor.
He's got a voice like diabetes. Like, I think he's just naming these different things that he has. This is played by he's played by Ian McNeice.
Yes.
Who, by the way, would fit into our series of Who's Who of Doctor Who.
Yes, he would.
Played Winston Churchill.
Yes, he did. He did an excellent job playing Winston Churchill.
He was that was the Matt Smith series, right?
Yes, that was the Matt Smith series. Yes.
So, this obviously was well before that. Yeah, the 11th Doctor. And it becomes clear that he's like an agent, and he's giving him gag gifts in between talking about important information.
And Omar Sharif asks him something, and he's like, "Well, smell this flower, and I'll tell you." He's got a flower in his lapel, and it squirts ink into his face. He's like, "Try this cigar. It's one of our finest." Puts it in his mouth and lights it, and it explodes. It's an exploding cigar.
I forgot. I just saw this note I had. So we mentioned that Nick Rivers mentioned something to the Germans when they stopped him at the station, and the agent's like, "Oh, what did they tell him?" It's like, "Oh, I told him I put him on the Montgomery Ward mailing list."
Yes, that's right. Because he said something and they got mad. They pointed their guns at him, and if he wasn't going to be their special guest at the music festival, they would have killed him.
Montgomery Ward used to be a department store, if you're not aware of, but they would also have like electronics and stuff like. It was, I guess, akin to Sears.
Yeah.
More than just like clothes and furniture, It had like the whole gamut of things. It wasn't
sort
like
of a hodgepodge of things,
like a Macy's or JCPenney's where it's mostly clothes and home furnishings. This had other aspects.
Yeah.
So, which probably was a big joke in 1984, and for some reason, 40 years later, it's just still funny to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, he's giving these different gag gifts, and yeah, and so, oh yes, that was the other thing. He said, like, that's how he souvenirs, novelties, party tricks.
Yes. Souvenirs, novelties, party tricks.
That's the code. Is that Omar Sharif or Cedric asked him, "Do you know any good white basketball players?"
Yes. The rest of the code is, there are no good white basketball players.
Which is kind of funny because, when this movie was taking place, it would have mostly been white basketball players.
Yep.
And even when the movie came out, you had Larry Bird.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Bill Murray told me that he's clear. If you haven't seen Space Jam, you can watch Space Jam. Anyway. So no, they go on. They talk for a little bit. And they're talking about, they want to know where they're keeping this guy called Dr. Flamand. So, and he tells them that he needs to meet the leader of the resistance at a ballet that evening, right? That he must stay at the Howard Johnson.
It's the Howard Johnson.
If you're not familiar, Howard Johnson was a chain of hotels that had like a kind of like a Denny's style diner attached to it. Or IHOP. But IHOP's probably a better comparison. Comparison. They no longer exist, but like Montgomery Ward doesn't exist. But it's just, I don't know. I just found it funny. It's like it's a dated reference, but it's a funny dated reference. Oh, yeah. So he goes all, and then they kind of say they're separate things, and then Cedric bends over and he picks something up and tells him, "Here's your fake poop." It's like, I don't have any
fake poop.
And so, Cedric, he has a driver. It's going to take him to the Howard Johnson, and they arrive somewhere, and he's like, "This isn't the Howard Johnson."
Yeah, he drives to a junkyard. Yeah, he gets picked up by a car magnet and dropped into a car compactor.
And it squishes it. And you think there's no more Omar Sharif.
Yep.
Omar Sharif comes back. Sorry for the spoiler, but he does come back.
He does. In a very humorous way.
Oh, yes. Right. So, they get to that evening, and there's the kind of this nice restaurant, and there's a band playing there. All right, all right, we'll get to it.
Yeah,
and Nick Rivers,
Nick
Rivers, and the Soviet guy. It's becoming held as kind of like the opening, for the the concert series, right?
Yeah. So we start out. Yeah, they're at the restaurant. It's the Nazis are there with the Soviet guy, with the Soviet singer. What was his name? Biletnikov.
Yes.
So he was played General by Streck is there Richard Mays. Yeah, General Streck is there with Biletnikov.
He's also of Doctor Who.
Yes, he is.
Anyway, so they're there together,
But yes, yeah, Richard Mays played Chief Baxter in 2 episodes of Doctor Who.
Okay.
Back in 1968.
Yeah, so he's probably
in
the
2 episodes
series
of Fury from the Deep, which was the 2nd Doctor, I believe.
All right. So they're at dinner, and he gets his table, and
first the General Streck and Boletnikov are up at the Mater D.
That's right,
and they're talking to him, and General Streck mentions to the Mater D, maybe we can get our friend Boletnikov to sing a song later. And the Mater D's like, I can arrange that. So, because Boletnikov is someone they do not want to insult.
No.
So they, he takes them to their table, and then Nick Rivers comes in, and he's supposed to be meeting his handler there, the guy he was on the train with.
Yes,
but he gets taken to his table, and there's a note. And as he's reading the note, you hear the handler's voice. And then he walks up to him with a little megaphone. And he's saying what Nick's reading. But he can't come to dinner because he has a sore throat.
But he's there.
And he walks up there, and he's got the megaphone, the cone with a hole in it. And he says, he's like, this thing's not helping my voice at all. It's not helping my throat at all.
Yeah, think. So now he's there by himself. He's Stag.
And he looks over, and at the Mater D's stand, he sees a beautiful woman.
Well, is this before or after she meets with the souvenir guy?
This is before.
Okay.
Before she meets the souvenir guy, because this is her first appearance in the movie.
All right, that's right. It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
She walks in, and he sees her from across the room. And
this is Lucy Gutteridge is the actress, by the way.
Lucy Gutteridge plays Hillary. And so she is about to get thrown out.
Because she doesn't have a ticket.
Yes, because she has no ticket to the banquet. And so Nick Rivers gets up, and he walks over and, convinces the Mater D that she's with him, that she's his guest. And so he allows her in. And so Nick takes her over to his table, and they're sitting down talking. I love this thing. They're reading the menu, and it's all written in German. And Hillary's like, "Oh, it's okay. I know a little German. He's right over there."
And then there's a little German.
There's a little German. A little short guy in lederhosen. And they wave to each other.
That's what's brilliant about this movie. It just alternates between like serious and random
nonsense.
It's like you got serious Germans, and then you got the guy speaking like it's her throat. Back to Germans,
and then a little German.
A little German. Anyway,
so then so they're talking, and the Mater D gets up on stage, and he starts announcing that they have a special guest tonight who's going to sing them a song, and Nick thinks they're talking about him.
Yeah.
So the Mater D's like, so if we could get a round of applause and try to get him up here to sing. And Nick's like, no, I don't know. I shouldn't, but okay. He gets up, and just as just as Biletnikov is starting to stand up to go up there, Nick rushes up onto the stage,
gives some instructions to the band.
Yeah, he has sheet music in his jacket pocket.
He's ready.
Inside his jacket, he's got sheet music. He hands it to all the band members.
What I think is funny about this scene, well, I mean, the thing's funny, but like when you look back at it kind of retrospectively, this is the same. Like this is like Back to the Future is right around the same time.
Yes,
and it's such a similar scene.
Yes,
you have to expect the ends. Some like the band leader is like backstage, like, "Hey, Little Richard, you know that new sound you've been looking for? Well, listen to this." Because the song is Tutti Frutti.
Yes, it is. The song is Tutti Frutti. But he sings it like Elvis.
And of course, the Germans are beside themselves.
Yes. Yes.
And the Soviets beside themselves.
And Biletnikov, Biletnikov is very upset because he was supposed to go up and sing, and nobody insults Biletnikov. But Nick puts on his performance. He's dancing all over the room, getting up on tables,
and everyone's having fun.
Everybody's loving it. He's doing his Elvis pelvis dance.
Elvis pelvis. And he finishes it, goes back to the table, and the lady's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when she's snuck off, and she's gonna meet the souvenir dude.
But before it shows her meeting the souvenir guy, his hog balls come.
That's right.
They're delivered to his table.
And they're flaming
because they had ordered the flaming hog balls.
And he just looks at them confused. That's when Harrison Ford comes in, picks one skewer up,
and throws
it
into the guy. Throws it in the henchman of the guy who just poisoned him. Lao Shay. No, Harrison Ford is not in this movie. No, neither is Indiana Jones.
Or Dan Aykroyd.
Or Lao Shay. Although this was all happening around the same time. Mm-hmm. That was maybe 10 years before, chronologically about
earlier than this.
Yeah, chronologically about maybe 10 years before this movie takes place.
Still.
But they both came out in the same year. Both 84.
Yeah. It's the theme, 84.
Yep. 1984 had some fantastic movies.
Fantastic
And this
movies.
is not the last movie from 84 that we're going to be doing on this podcast.
No, it's not. Obviously not the first either.
Nope.
So
we've already done a couple of them.
He sees she's gone, and she's gone to meet the souvenir dude. And this time, the question is, who do you favor in the Virginia Slims tournament?
Yes.
In women's tennis, I always root against the heterosexual.
we missed what? Oh, we missed before. Yeah, we missed before this. Before the scene with her and the souvenir guy. There's another thing that happened at the banquet. They were presenting a medal.
Oh, that's right.
To Biletnikov. And it was presented by the East German Women's Olympic.
That's right. That's like the initial events, like during the daytime.
Yeah.
Like all outside.
Was it
presenting a medal to him?
Yeah, the East. Yeah, that was before the banquet. You're right. But yeah, it was the East German women's track and field team. like Olympic track and field team, and it's a bunch of big burly men in wigs.
There are so many jokes in this movie. We apologize.
Yes. We are going to miss several of them. We are going to forget several of them, but that just gives you even more reason to go and watch the movie.
It does. Absolutely.
There are so many. There's no way that we could cover all of them in this podcast.
So, anyway, yeah. So she asked, who do you favor in the Virginia Slims tournament? In women's tennis, I always root against the heterosexual. It's just like all these jokes, these sports jokes. Anyway. But they talk about Cedric and like, you know, he's like, oh yeah, he was just here waiting in your hotel room. Right. And so she heads off, and then there's a gun that kind of comes out from the shadows and it fires, and it sadly kills Souvenir Guy.
Yes.
I like him.
Yes, me too.
So, but she gets up to her room, and she's waiting in there, and then is it a knock on the door? I can't. Well, I guess it's a knock on the door. And, you know, it opens up, and there's Cedric. And
yes,
it's
the smashed up car.
He's got Omar Sharif's face.
Yes,
it's a nice, perfectly compacted rectangle. And so they just, yeah. And they talk.
He kind of waddles into the room and then falls backwards onto his back because he's got this car. You know, he's inside a car cube.
Yeah.
You know, his feet are sticking out the bottom of it. There's a hole where his face is, and he has the letter for her in the glove compartment.
Yep.
And
well, he's just like, it must have been a trap. They knew I was at that. They knew I was at the Howard Johnson.
They knew I was staying at the Howard Johnsons.
And so it's like, you know, it's like, okay, well, we gotta rescue your father before it's too late. And he tells her, I was supposed to go to the ballet tonight to meet this guy called the Torch. He leads the resistance. Right? And then it's like, oh, where's the ticket? It's in the glove compartment.
Yeah. And she's like, well, can you reach it? She's like, I can't reach it from where I am, from inside.
Well, he tries. And
he tries.
Honks.
Yeah, he tries and the horn honks. And so.
And then he sets off the wipers.
Yeah. Sets off the wipers. It squirts wiper fluid on his face. And then the wiper comes and wipes his nose. So she tries to get it. So she leans over him. And
here comes the second boob gag.
And so she leans over him to try to reach for the glove compartment, and her boobs are in his face. And then the antenna, which is right around crotch level for him, extends.
Pops. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's right. That was actually the third boob gag, because when they first met, when Nick and Hillary first met.
Oh, that's right.
Nick asked for her name, and she says her name's Hillary. And he's like, Hillary, that's an unusual name. She says, it's a German name. It means she whose bosoms defy gravity. And then she's like, I'm pleased to meet you. I'm pleased to meet you. My name is Nick. And Hillary's like, Nick? What does that mean? Oh, nothing. My dad thought of it while he was shaving.
So we got to the ballet. Nixon up in one of the boxes, and he's watching, and I always forgot about this. He's watching the male ballet dancers have these gigantic
pieces. Yes, they have these gigantic god pieces. The women are just like dancing across them. The men all stand in line, and the women are kind of just prancing down, using them as steps.
So he's watching. He looks across the ballet hall to one of the boxes, and he sees Hillary.
No, we didn't even mention the East German national anthem that they sang at the ceremony with the East German women's Olympic track and field team. Yeah, the words to that are "Hail, hail, East Germany, land of fruit and grape, land where you'll regret if you try to escape. No matter if you tunnel under or take a running jump at the wall, forget it, the guards will kill you if the electrified fence doesn't first."
He sees this German dude sneak up behind her in the box. So he goes over to help save her, and they struggle, and he drops him from.
Yep, he drops him from the balcony.
The suite.
And then they start getting chased by the Nazis. And so they're running down the hall trying to find the janitor's room. Front by the janitor's closet. It just says janitor on the door. They open it up and the janitor's in there. He's just standing there. It's like, oh, yep. The sign on this door was correct. There is a janitor in there. Then they go into the next room down is the prop room. And so they open that door and it's just a room full of propellers. It's just full of propellers.
I love how when they get in, because they lock the door with
They grab the biggest propeller in the room and they put it down across the door.
And meanwhile, now all of a sudden, the Nazis are trying to break into the room, and the prop room has a proper window. Right? Oh, we forgot the Pac-Man.
Yes, we did. Because
when they're driving, after they get off the train, they're driving.
Yeah, after they get off the train at the beginning, they're driving, and it's showing like a map, like Indiana Jones style, a map and everything, and it shows like dots of where their car's going. And then, they're turning down all these roads and everything, and it ends up looking like a Pac-Man screen.
And you look at it like, oh, that looks like the Pac-Man screen.
Yeah.
And then the ghosts show up.
The ghosts show up, and then Pac-Man comes in from the side. He's just eating the dots. Oh, I'm sorry, folks. We're going to be all over this movie. There's no way we're going to stay... we're going to stay chronological for this thing. So I'm sorry if that bothers you, but it's just how it's going to happen.
I only think of this because they get to the window and she looks down the street. And what was the gag they had on that? I'm trying to just. So the other paladin, and he tells her that she should go, and he'll be, he's kind of sacrificing himself, and they come in, they arrest Nick Rivers, and
because he knows, because he's there as their special guest, so they can't do too much to him.
That's right. That's what he says.
Yeah. So he helps her escape, and he stays there to, to face them.
So, we cut to his jail cell, and he's got, he's tallying anything.
Tallying up.
20.
He gets up to 20. It looks like he's been there for 20 days. And then his handler comes in. He's like, "Oh, it's about time you got here. I've been in here for 20 minutes already."
And he's like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I've talked with the embassy, the German government, the consulate, the UN ambassador. It's no use.
I just can't bring my wife to orgasm.
And he's like, "That's a shame, Martin."
That's a shame, Martin. Here, try this.
His name is Martin.
And he hands him a box. There's a big box that says "anal intruder" on it.
It's just these props just show up out of nowhere. Like, okay, he's rolling because
here, try this.
And
it's the anal intruder. And so for the rest of the conversation, Martin is sitting on the bed with this box on his lap. He opens up the box. And he's like taking all the stuff out of it.
And he's looking at it. He's trying to figure out how it works. And he's got this look on his face.
I mean, it's this giant, like, jackhammer looking thing with different attachments. There's a fist on there, and there's.
Meanwhile, like, Nick's being serious. Like, I don't think they know what a fair trial is over here. Like, it's like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm concerned about myself. Right. And then, he's just like, "Oh, no, but they still got to let you out before the concert Friday night. They're beaming it, they're saying, like, it's going to be, like, live on satellite, like, all over the world. Like, they'll let you out. Right. And so then, he has to leave, and the Germans are talking with him again after they just electrocuted a priest.
Yes, because after Martin leaves, then there's a little bit of a time jump. We don't know how long, but there's a priest in there giving last rites to Nick, or you think it's to Nick.
No, it's himself.
Then they walk the priest out, put him in the electric chair, electrocute him.
To show how serious they are.
Yes, to show how serious they are.
And then they want to know, like, why did he attack Sergeant Kruger? It's like, oh, I had no idea. He's like being truthful. Like, I have no idea who he was. I saw him pull a gun on a girl, so I went to protect her. And like, well, you better hope that, his condition improves. And then
they get word that he's dead.
It's like, he's dead. It's like, let me introduce to you my associate.
First, he answers phone. He's like, "All right, well, let me know if his situation improves."
That's right.
And then he hangs up. He's like, he's dead.
That's just like, let me introduce you to two of my associates. One of them's a blind man.
One of them's a blind man.
What was his blind? Bruno, right? Yeah, Bruno.
Yeah, Bruno. He's completely blind, so he does everything by touch.
And then Klaus, who's a moron.
Klaus is a moron, yes.
And he's like, "Oh no, well, you don't scare me." Like he does call him, at least according to what I'm reading here, he does call him his manager. He's on the way to the American consulate. He's like, they're like, "Don't be so sure." We found him in his hotel room.
What he didn't realize was here in Germany, we use 220 volts, not 110 like you do in America.
He didn't have a voltage adapter.
We found him impaled on this. And he picks up the anal intruder.
Like, it took them. Well, did you say? Did it say it took him 2 days to wipe the smile off his face?
Something like that.
Hey, at least he died with a smile.
Yep,
on his
he
face.
died with a smile on his face. I mean, I guess he had to try it out before trying it on his wife. To make sure it was safe.
Oh, it says 2 hours. 2 hours.
2 hours to wipe the smile off his face.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. So, the Klaus and Bruno, they take him off to torture him, and then he has this dream where he's back in.
Yeah, they just start slapping him. Klaus just starts slapping him, and he has a dream where he's in high school and he's late for the exam, he's late for the test, and another guy in the hall tells him, "All the tests are done."
And he was just like, "Oh, thank God."
He wakes up, yeah, he's still at the German prison. He's like, "Oh, thank God. Thank God. I'm not in high school anymore. I'm missing a test."
So
they take him. They take him back to his cell. And he's supposed to be executed. Supposed to be in line for execution. And so he decides he's going to try to escape. So he sees a vent, and he pops open the vent, and he climbs in there, and then falls out another vent. And there's another vent across the cell above his bed, so he climbs in that one. And then it pops out the medicine cabinet, pops back in there, pops up out of the toilet. Pops back down. There's a vent in the ceiling that he pops out. Then eventually, he tumbles down a vent and into a bigger room that looks kind of like a lab.
And sees Batman's butler.
Yes, he sees Alfred down there. He sees Alfred. He sees Michael Goff. Who plays Dr. Paul Flamand, or Flamand.
Flamand, yeah.
Dr. Paul Flamand. And Dr. Flamand was captured by the Germans, and he's being forced to build them things.
Build them things. Specifically a magnetic mine.
Yes, a magnetic mine that will be when activated, it will be able to detect a submarine from 5 miles away and lock onto it. And what gets me is, so it's his secret weapon, right? His secret project that he's working on for the Nazis. And he tells Nick, if they find out you've seen this, your life will be worth less than a truckload of dead rats in a tampon factory. Now, I saw this, and that has to be a reference to something.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's too random.
And a while back, I looked up what it was a reference to, and it had something to do with animal testing.
Oh, that makes sense, given that time period.
Yeah, animal testing. I guess tampons were inserted into them for certain things.
I don't want to know.
I don't either. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. So, I remember another joke that happened right before this is that he said before he was arrested, he was working on a magnetic desalinization process in which he would remove the salt from over millions of gallons of seawater every day.
Like 500 million gallons of seawater every day.
And it's like, you realize what that would mean for the starving nations of the world. And he's like, they'd have enough salt to last forever. Anyway, but then he's playing around with the mine. He turns it on.
Turns it on, and then this submarine comes busting through the wall. And the mine, sticks to it like it's supposed to.
Anyway, obviously, he attracts attention. He gets arrested, and
the Germans come in and point their guns at him, and the doctor and Nick both put their hands up, and then the guy in the submarine who had just popped out of the top hatch, he puts his hands up too.
So it cuts back to the generals though, and they get a call. It's like, okay, he must be allowed to perform to.
No, but first it cuts to the firing squad because he's to be executed by firing squad.
That's right. Yes.
So they have him tied to the post, and they're all getting ready to shoot him. And there's a phone across the yard that's ringing.
Yeah, and they call it because they can't kill him yet.
Yeah,
because nope, they can't. They want to avoid an international incident.
Yes. So they call to try to cease the execution.
And this old lady in a walker
starts slowly moving to the phone to answer it.
I love how the commitment to this gag. Right?
Yes,
they stick with it.
Yes, they do.
Because she slowly continues,
slowly moving closer to the phone.
And then she's get all the way there, and then you get Nick Rivers singing again. How silly can you get? And all
those girls are swooning.
They're swooning. You imagine how they would swoon over the Elvis pelvis, Beatlemania, that type of thing, right? Then he goes into a second song, spend this night with me, which he's on the stage now. And he's kind of singing this one girl,
and he pulls this one girl up, and she's like crying her eyes out up there,
and she's probably anyway. I won't go there.
Yeah,
Anyway, so then he's talking about the song's about spending this night with him, and if she doesn't, he's gonna want to kill himself, and news comes down, right? And then he tries these other ways of killing himself. There's train tracks appear on the stage, and he leans on them, and then the song ends. The noose is still there, and then he looks up at his, and she's up there. Lucy's up there. I'm sorry, Hillary's up there. And she's telling him to grab the rope. So she rescues him and pulls him up through the ceiling.
Yep.
And they escape, and then they get the Germans, they get a call about where they're escaping to. Right? And they have to pretend that they're kissing to avoid them, right? No. The Germans get this is important. The Germans get the message from a pigeon.
Yes,
there's a note attached to the pigeon.
Yes, there's a note attached to the pigeon,
which that's important for later.
And
it's actually very important for later.
It's not just a note that's attached to the pigeon. It's a note that's in a little briefcase that's being carried by the pigeon.
I love how they follow this up though, because now they're like, you see them, they're kissing on the bench. Well, no, they're kissing on the bench. Right? She hasn't told him the story yet about
she hasn't told him her backstory yet.
And then they sit down, and there's this giant pigeon statue.
Yes, there's a giant statue of a pigeon
behind them in this park. And then these random dudes kind of
float down onto it, and they just start squatting. They start peeing on it.
And then they float back up, and then the statue poops.
The statue poops. Take that, pigeons that are always pooping on statues of people.
Anyway, in the midst of all this, they're supposed to go to this Swedish bookstore. This guy that knows her father. And this scene is brilliant.
So they walk into the bookstore, and it's Peter Cushing, and he's got a magnifying glass up against his eye, and he's looking at something. And then they come in, and he looks up at him, takes the magnifying glass away from his eye, and he's just got a gigantic eye.
and they start talking. She says who she is, and it's like, no, and then she says like, oh, he, it's like, he's like, oh, I don't know who you are, type of thing. And she says this, my dad says, yeah, you could get this book. He's like, oh, okay. And then they walk, and
is this when Nick finds out that the doctor that he met is her father?
No, that was in the park. That's right. It's like, oh no, yeah, I met your dad. Like he was in this prison. That's what it was. Yeah. Yes, that was like in that section between.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if that was then or if it was in this scene with Peter Cushing.
It's in that section right before this.
Okay.
And then these books are kind of floating down.
Yeah.
And then he catches them. And, and they're talking. And then.
Because this
like,
the great thing about this scene, this entire scene is shot in reverse.
It's shot in reverse.
It is shot in reverse.
If you go, like, watch the whole movie, then rewatch it, this scene afterwards, and watch it, and then watch it again, paying attention to the dialogue, because it fits either way.
Yeah, because like they're speaking in a secret code, but it's just what they're saying backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole movie, the whole scene, when they were filming, they're actually walking backwards and all this. So they're doing everything in reverse so that when they play it, forward, basically, it's, books that should be, that would be, if it was forward, would be falling off the shelf, are just flying up there out of their hands back onto the shelf, and all this stuff.
It's funny because the way it ends, well, they're like, oh, well, can you get us out tonight? It's like I don't know, it'll be difficult, that type of thing. And then it ends. There's a fire pole in the middle of the bookstore.
There's a fire pole in the middle of the bookstore.
Slide up the pole.
Yep, they slide up the pole.
Right? To emotional catharsis.
Emotional catharsis.
It's a pound down. We're not there yet. But back to this scene. It's brilliant because I'll need to find it. I have it here somewhere. There's a YouTube video, and someone has stitched together where you watch the scene how it's in the movie, but then they have it in reverse. They have flipped it, and they keep the dialogue in it, and then you can see the way it was filmed. Actually,
okay,
right? You see the final cut product, but then you see the way they actually filmed it, right?
Okay.
And then it's funny because what really works out perfectly on it is the scene where, they're looking, and he, puts the magnifying glass up, they see his big eye, the magnifying glass, and then it's like they're backing out of the bookstore because it's creepy.
Okay.
It's like, this guy's a creep. We're backing out. It's really, it's worth, I can send that to you, but it's a nice place.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'll have to see that.
So they slide up the pole into like a loft, looks like a loft area of the bookstore, and then she's reading to him. Well, not she's reading. She's talking to him, and she's like, "It's okay. A lot of people do this a lot of guys do this on the first time."
Yeah,
and then it cuts, and she's reading a book to him. Yeah. And that's when she tells the story about.
And then she tells a story about how she was stranded on a desert island when she was young, and she met a boy named Nigel. And this is the sequence that is The Blue Lagoon.
The Blue Lagoon. It's the Blue Lagoon 5 minutes.
Yes. She's basically the Brooke Shields character. Like, complete with her hair draped down, covering her boobs.
Yes.
And yeah, it just basically just goes through the Blue Lagoon in 5 minutes. And then Nigel was what was he? Yeah, he left one morning and never came back.
Well, it was after the first time that they discovered sex.
Yes, after they discovered sex.
Not the first time. There's only one time you can discover something.
Yeah,
you can't discover
when they discovered sex. Then, Nigel left early the next morning.
Christopher Villiers plays
Yes.
Nigel, by the way.
Well,
young Nigel. I can tell.
Young Nigel
was different actors
played by Lee Sheward.
All right, sorry.
And young Hillary was played by Mandy Nunn. Yeah, so he goes off to I think she said he was going to like find food or something, pick fruit or something, gather food, but never came back.
No, he hit it and quit it.
And so then she eventually got rescued from the island. And never saw Nigel again.
Never saw him again. So Nick has to know his backstory. and well, and how she got stranded there is her uncle took her on a cruise.
That's
and there's a terrible storm.
Yes, there's a terrible storm.
A 3-hour tour. It probably is like a. I don't think I really caught those.
There was no Gilligan on this island. Yeah, I didn't catch that either, but yeah. Yeah, there's no Gilligan on this island.
No, there's not. And then so she's like, I love how she ends like, you can't imagine what it's like to be separated from your family at a young age. It's like, actually, I think I can.
Yeah.
When I was 6, my mama took me to the city to one of those big old department stores. Okay, again, like I love the blending of how this movie it takes place in the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
It's filmed in the 80s, but acts like it takes place in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's like, that's how they used to exist. It's like it's the 1940s. They existed then.
But at the time that he was talking about it, like recalling the story,
20s,
it would have been like the 20s, yeah.
So it's like, yeah. And he got lost. And they tried to, I like how they said
they tried to page his mother.
This PA system was on the fritz.
The PA system was on the fritz.
It's like, I never saw my mama again. Like, did she not look for you? Did she purposely lose you?
She just left.
Is this like dropping the baby off at the police station, but just 6 years later?
Yep. If we take it to the fire station, they have to take it.
That's right. If you leave it at the department store, at the the big ones like they used to be, they gotta take them. It's like some people from the cosmetics department fed me some soup and bread.
Some people from the cosmetics department fed me some soup and bread. Yes.
Finally, he gets to February. It's like during the semi-annual Lincoln's birthday sale. Wait, does Lincoln's birthday happen semi-annually? Should it be the annual Lincoln's birthday sale?
It should be.
It's like it's like they asked me to help out in preteen maternity.
They have a whole department for preteen maternity.
Hey, they were stuck on a deserted island as well. I mean,
they must be. They must be.
And then he overheard a conversation about them needing a new jingle for a radio ad.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I picked up my guitar.
Because when did he get the guitar? Maybe they sold it there. Maybe he picked it up in the years that he was living there.
Hey.
But he.
And then he's like, went something like this.
And then he starts singing "Are You Lonesome Tonight," but with different words. He changed the lyrics to be a jingle for the department store.
And that leads to emotional catharsis.
Yes, that leads to emotional catharsis.
First, they crushed the guitar.
Yeah.
And their embrace,
Yeah. It's pinned between them, and it just crushes.
And so we got to the next morning. They're heading to find the resistance, and they're on the back of a little, a farmer. He's driving, his little cart. It's got hay on the back, and it's being driven by a miniature horse.
Yes, a miniature horse.
It sneezes as they're leaving.
And they're singing.
That's what they're singing.
So there's because it's always showing just distant shots of this cart. And so
that's right.
It seems like it's the driver who's singing. But then it does a close up, and the horse is the one singing. The little miniature horse is singing. It's actually sings, what is it, 2 songs during this trip?
Songs, yes.
At least 2 songs during this journey. Then he tells a little horse joke.
They get off. It sneezes. It's okay. He's like, it's a little horse.
It's a little horse.
So they get to the house where the resistance is. They let them in, and then they get in, and they're all pointing guns at them.
They're all pointing guns at them,
except for one guy. Well, 2 guys. One guy has a knife.
Yes.
And the other guy has a cannon.
Yes. He has a knife. The other has a cannon. And then their leader comes down the stairs, and it's none other than Nigel.
And he is still dressed
dressed in his island wear.
He's lotioned up, too.
Yes. He's got to show off those glistening abs.
And Nick is crushed.
Yes, Nick is crushed because this is Hillary's long lost love. And so Nigel is convinced that they're on his side. So he goes and he introduces all of the freedom fighters.
Yes. Well, he asked the one guy, his second in command, to introduce him to the team.
Yes, his second in command is Duquois.
Well, first they said, Duquois.
Duquois.
Yes. And then first, Hillary introduces, this is Nick Rivers. He's a friend. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We've had, and he tells him, I'm sorry that we were not hospitable, but we believe there's a traitor in the resistance. So then he says, Duquois, introduce the American to the men.
So the first one he introduces is the black guy named Chocolate.
No, it's not. It's not the black guy. It's Chevrolet.
Oh yes, that's right, Chevrolet.
And then it's montage.
And then montage.
Détente.
Montage détente.
Avant-garde.
Avant-garde.
And deja vu.
And deja vu.
Have we met?
And he's like, have we met?
No.
No, I don't think so.
And I love it.
I love that deja vu joke.
He raises his eyebrows. He looks away and he looks back.
Mm-hmm.
And then over there.
Deja vu jokes are great. Yes. Croissant.
Souffle.
Souffle and chocolate mousse.
No, escargot. And then chocolate mousse.
And chocolate mousse.
He's smoking a cigar and he opens his mouth. He puts it in his mouth and he just chews on it.
Yep.
And swallows the cigar.
And chocolate mousse is the only black guy in the team.
I mean, it's not chocolate escargot.
No, it's not. It's not. Who would want? No. Who would put chocolate on escargot? I don't know. Is that a thing?
Chocolate deja. Well, is there just a mousse? Do they have a mousse on the team that's not there right now?
Maybe.
And they call the other one chocolate.
Except if they have a mousse on the team, why wouldn't they just call it Bullwinkle? But anyway,
I love how it's chocolate mousse.
Yes,
it's not chocolat mousse.
Yeah.
unless Jason Segel is involved. He's like, you mean chocolate?
You mean chocolate? Chocolat.
That's such a delightful movie. I'd say.
Yeah. So while they're discussing things, then the final member of their team runs in with news. And his name is Latrine.
And he tells them that, the Germans are just down, like they're well, at first he's like, saying, oh yeah, we took heavy hits, it's, and they finally say, oh, where they are? Oh, they're just down the road. So like they realize, like, okay, they're coming close.
Mm-hmm. So the Nazis surround the house.
So they're preparing. I love how Dick is right by chocolate mousse, and one of the guys, I think it's one, he gets scared. He just runs out of the house.
Yeah.
And then Nick just looks at this bottle that chocolate mousse has, like, can I have some?
That was Latrine, though, wasn't it? That ran out of the house? That got scared and ran out?
It was Latrine.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And he takes a swig of the bottle.
He's like, what is this? Gasoline. And the chocolate mousse takes another swig of it.
And then there's a little firefight that's erupting there, and
it shows each member of the team at a window. Like each one is at a window, and each time they're using their guns to knock out a section of the window to break the glass. And each window that shows there's more and more glass broken from that window, so there's no need to break a little piece out, but they keep doing it. Except one guy, he keeps trying to hit that glass, but it will not break. And eventually,
Nick ends up playing tic-tac-toe.
Nick ends up playing tic-tac-toe at his window because he knocks one of the sections out, and it's just a circle, and then the Nazis shoot it. And another section, it's an X. And he's playing tic-tac-toe.
And finally, the Nazis they launch a grenade in there, and which one was it? It was Duquois. Duquois sees it, he's like, grenade, and he jumps on it.
Jumps on it.
Everyone else, and
everybody else blows up. Duquois is safe on the grenade. Everybody else gets blown back.
So they fight off the attack.
Yeah, they fight off the attack, and then they go to their pizza house. It's like a 50s diner style pizza place in the middle of Germany.
Because, of course. And they're talking, and they've arranged transport for Nick to leave since, he did his duty, right?
But a couple of them are convinced that he's a spy.
Right.
Because somebody led them to their secret hideout.
Well, that's when Latrine comes back in, and he's got a pigeon.
Yes, he's got a pigeon, slams it down. And it's got a note on it. Not in a briefcase this time.
Not this time, no.
It's not a tiny briefcase.
And so then, these two girls come up and like, oh, aren't you Nick?
Are you Nick Rivers? It's like, no, I'm not. It's like, because you look exactly like him.
And then Nigel's like, they leave. He gives him a name, and Nigel's like, oh, wait. And, he's walking through all these things and like about how, like, oh, are we sure about this with Nick? Right?
Yeah.
So he's obviously trying to put the blame on him.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
so
it's spoiler alert. It's kind of obvious who it is.
Yes. So in order to create a distraction, Nick gets up, walks out of the jukebox.
Because there's a jukebox.
Because there's a jukebox in there. Because it's a 50s pizzeria in the 40s.
And these people are trying to eat pizza. And the walking over is it's like extra cheese pizza.
Yes.
It's just these long shreds of mozzarella cheese.
So he starts a song on the jukebox, and it's a Nick Rivers song.
Wait, no, we forgot. Before that even started, that he's waiting on a truck that's going to be there at midnight on the dot.
Yeah.
He looks up at the clock.
That's right.
And it's the
Hitler clock. Yes, we promised we'd mention the Hitler clock. But yeah, it's 11:45. It's a Hitler clock, but it's a picture of Hitler in the middle of it. And the hands of the clock are his arm and his leg. Or is it just his arms?
So anyway,
is it just his arms, or is his arm?
I don't know if it's just his arms or his leg. I don't know.
Either way,
I think it's anyway.
Either way, Hitler's limbs are the hands of the clock.
So he goes to the jukebox. He's he selects one of the songs,
and then he starts singing it, and all the girls are swooning.
And it's called "Straighten Out the Rug."
Yes, straighten out the rug.
And they swoon.
There's a lot of Nick Rivers singing in this movie.
No, and Val Kilmer does it.
Yeah, he does it brilliantly.
Val Kilmer does the singing for this movie.
Yeah,
like there's two songs that are not original to the movie, and he sings those too.
Yep,
in those scenes, like Tutti Frutti, when he does Tutti Frutti earlier in the movie,
that's him singing.
Yep. That's him singing it.
Yep.
So everyone else is convinced that he's who he says he is. This Nick, he's Nick Rivers. He's not the spy.
Yep.
Theoretically, he could still actually be the spy.
He could.
He could still be the traitor.
He could be.
Nick Rivers could be working for the Germans.
Yep.
They don't consider that possibility.
Nope.
So they go and leave, and they get in a. So he decides not to get on the transport. He's going to stay, and he's going to get into prison to help them show, because he's the one that knows the prison.
Because they're
right.
Yeah, because they're
trying to
when they're going
to get out the dock.
Yeah, because after the was it before the pizzeria? Or was it at the headquarters that they were going through their plan, and they had like a full model of the prison?
That's later. That's not yet.
Okay. That's right.
The attack.
That's right.
So, but yeah, so he decides that he's not going to get on his transport. He's going to stick with them because he knows the inside of the prison.
Yeah.
He's like Sean Connery in the
because
Rock.
they've got to get in there and get Hillary's dad out, and he knows where he is.
So, yeah, they're waiting to get on the plane, and it's got a bullseye, and they're talking, and they're throwing darts.
Throwing darts at the bullseye.
Plane. So, and they get up in the air. Like I don't know why they're taking the plane to get there. Anyway, it's funny.
Yeah.
So they parachute out the plane. They have enough time. They have a casual conversation as they're parachuting down. And then she says, like, "What I made last night when we made love, I did not realize Nigel was still alive.
I didn't realize that Nigel was still alive.
I want to be with you." And they embrace as they're floating down
where they're so close together, like they're embracing. So their parachutes would have gotten tangled up, but they didn't.
And then it pans over, and there's a fireplace.
Yes, there's a fireplace parachuting down next to him. Because earlier, when they reached emotional catharsis, as they were doing the deed, then the camera panned over to a fireplace. So that fireplace is back. This time with a parachute.
Which begs the question. Was there Pound Town? Is there...
Maybe. I mean... There was too much of a crowd on the plane to reach the Mile High Club, so maybe they were doing some parachute Pound Town.
My other question was the Vanisher with them?
He could have been. He could have been.
Because, like, that's Brad Pitt. And then Brad Pitt, you know what? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
This is Brad Pitt's character in Inglourious Basterds.
Could be. That could be. Maybe Inglourious Basterds and Top Secret
Inglourious Basterds exist in the same universe.
In the same universe. Yes. I like that theory.
Yeah. Anyway, they land obviously now. So we're now actually fully in the morning. It's not night, and they're planning out their attack, right? And that's when they had the bottle of the prison, which is an old castle. It's like an English castle. It's not a German style.
They have
castle,
like a full scale model of the castle of the prison,
and it's like, we're gonna go in here dressed as a cow,
because
there's cows.
Yeah, Duquois and
the prison has a cow.
Yeah, Nigel and Duquois are going to be the cow,
and they're gonna
sneak in with the herd, and then they're going to climb. They're going to go around to the electrical building, and they're going to shut off the power.
Turn off the electrical fence.
Yeah, so that the rest of the team can get in.
Which I love. It's funny when you look later in the movie. It's like a chain link fence.
Yeah,
like it's not like solid walls with razor wire.
Yeah, no, it's just a chain link fence.
I love how, as they're talking about the model, though, a model train goes by.
Yeah, a model train just goes circling around it. So they're and then it has Nigel and Duquois are getting their cow costume put together. And Nigel, I guess Duquois thought Nigel was supposed to be the head, and Duquois was going to be the ass end. And Nigel's like, "No, you be the head. I'll be the back end."
He's like, "But that's not the plan." And then Nigel's like, "I make the plan." And Duquois like, "Fine, be the asshole."
Yeah. So they get in the
Nazis. They heard the cows.
And I love this
cow.
This cow costume is, it's your standard, four-legged animal costume with two people, and it's actually a cow with like spray painted polka dots on it, and wearing black rubber boots on all four hooves.
I love about it. It's like you look at it, there's no udders when you first see it. And then they walk in, and then like at one point, one of the German guards smacks it in the ass. And it's like, move, right?
And it keeps cutting the inside of the costume. You see Nigel's face.
And then they get in, and like they're getting hurt around with all the other cows, and like they're just like, we're gonna split off. Like they're not gonna get noticed.
First they're standing there, and a baby cow comes up and starts suckling on the udders,
which came out of nowhere.
And Duquois is like, all right, it's time to go. And Nigel has this look on his face. He's like, no.
He's like, what's?
No, we got to stay here.
Why are you in a rush?
Why are you in a rush?
And because like earlier they said like they had to cut it off at a certain time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, like we got 2 minutes. Like we gotta go.
Uh-huh.
So they finally, I guess, the baby cow is done.
Yeah, the baby cow finishes
finishes Nigel.
Finishing its milk. And it goes, and they go to the electrical shack and turn off the power.
And they cut the fence. They crawl through, and he just sees these boots.
Mm-hmm.
And then he looks up, and it's
just boots.
In the middle.
It's just boots in the middle of the field.
So, latrine and French moose. Not French moose.
Chocolate mousse.
They're trying to, break into the prison, the castle.
Oh, and by the way, the cow that plays them in the costume, it's Daisy.
Daisy.
The cow's name is Daisy.
I forgot. Deja Vu's with them at this point too. He's still with them also.
Yeah.
Deja Vu he was not one of the ones that blew up with. Anyway.
Well, they all just got blown back. They didn't actually blow up.
They got blown back, yes. Yeah. Well, we don't see a whole lot of them, some of them again.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't know that they die.
But
anyway. So they're trying to find a way to, find the spot where they're going to scale, the walls of the prison or the castle. And then it's not, they get a little bit further back, and then they get back to the two in the cow costume.
And Nigel decides they're going to go turn the power back on.
We got to go turn it back on. It's like, that's going to alert them.
Yeah, that's going to alert them. That's going to set off the alarm.
Duquois is like, that's going to alert them. It's like, that's when Nigel
pulls a gun.
Yep.
He pulls a gun on him, and he's like, no, we're going to go and turn on the power. And Duquois is like, you're the traitor. And then a bull sees Daisy the cow.
A bull is casually seeing this.
Yeah. A bull sees this cow and thinks it's sexy.
Hey!
So walks over and proceeds to mount the two men that are in a cow costume. And then Nigel gets a shock. Nigel gets an interesting surprise right up his Hershey Highway.
Not emotional catharsis.
No,
but it is bound town.
There's nothing cathartic about it. Nigel gets raped by a bull.
So, he was trying to get up the wall.
So remember that, folks. Don't side with the Nazis, or else you may get raped by a bull. Takes us back to the meaning of life. Don't side with the Nazis.
Okay. I get the Wikipedia page back up. I love this description. Okay. The resistance group stages a rescue of Dr. Flamand, where Nigel and Duquois, a resistance leader, dress up in a fake cow outfit to disable the prison's defenses. While the other members successfully infiltrate the prison, Nigel reveals himself as the traitor, but his plans are ruined by an amorous bull.
An amorous bull.
I just thought the bull was just, in heat, but,
Nope. It's an amorous bull. It's in love. that bull is not going to leave after coitus. It's not gonna post-coitally leave. It's going to stay there like Johnny Hooker.
Yes. Anyway, we should have had Patrick Swayze with a 12 gauge in this movie. By the way,
yes.
Anyway, so they get to the top of the castle. I love how the train gets shot in the back as they're shooting up. And they climb up him, and it's okay.
They climb up him. He's just holding on to the top of the castle. They're climbing up him.
And then I love how they get up there, and Chocolate Moose throws one of them off the castle, and he shatters like a porcelain.
He shatters like a... Yeah.
And then they finally get to Dr. Flamand, and then Hillary comes in afterwards.
And you have a reunion between the father and the daughter.
No, she's not there yet. I'm sorry, she's not there yet. We get that later.
Yeah, we get that after they get him out.
Because she stays back.
Yeah,
so she
stays have to back by the truck.
Caught
Yeah,
in any of this.
Yeah,
that way, if it goes wrong, she can at least be safe.
Yeah,
right.
So she stays back. They have their reunion after they get Flamand out.
She's still with there, and Nigel now then comes back, and he's
he's walking funny.
Oh, I forgot. Sorry, we skipped something again. When Nick gets back, Dr. Lamond's like, "Oh, thank you," but in one more day, we've completed my tunnel.
Yes, one more day, I've completed my tunnel, and they go and they lift up a poster, Shawshank style, even though Shawshank hadn't come out yet. I mean, the book probably was. When was the Shawshank novella?
What was it? Like
it was a short story. When was that written? Because they go and they look behind.
First published in 1982 by Viking Press.
Okay.
In his collection, Different Seasons.
All right. So it could very well be a reference to
Could
that.
have been inspired, but then again,
so
that movie was set I guess that movie was set between like the late 1930s to the 60s. So all right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So, anyway, they go and they look behind the poster or the tapestry or whatever it is, and there's the Jersey Tunnel.
He's like, it's a good job. It's well done.
There's a sign in there that says New Jersey, 2 miles, or however many miles. But it's like a full-on tunnel.
So, and then finally, it cuts back, and she's there at the scene, and then Nigel comes up, and like we said,
he's walking funny.
He's walking funny. He's like, I was like, yeah, I'm here. It's all right. And he's just like, Vive la France. But then he has a gun.
Yeah.
And she figures it out that he's the traitor. And he's like, yeah, I could have come back and rescued you from that wretched island. It's like, it would have meant leaving my newfound comrades. And it was a Russian ship.
It's a Russian ship that rescued him.
Which, okay.
Yeah.
Considering the relationship of the Russians and the Germans, which is kind of the funny thing, the entire thing is that the Germans get a Russian and an American. Like, it could have found some Italians. That would have made sense at that time.
Yeah. but yeah.
But then, so he takes her hostage, and now you have Dubois meets up with the rest, and then tells him that Nigel's the traitor.
Yes. And so Nick and
they're
Nigel.
Go, well, it says, so the rest of the resistance, they're going to stay at the plane with the doctor because they need to get him out so they don't use him to have the mine. And it's like the plane's got to leave by this time. So Nick, he's there just so happens to be a motorcycle nearby.
Yeah. So he gets on the motorcycle and he's chasing after Nigel and Hillary.
This is like Steve McQueen Great Escape style.
Yeah. So during this chase, he catches up to them and Nick and Nigel end up underwater. They end up falling into a lake and sinking to the bottom where there's a full-on Western bar. Like there's dudes playing poker and there's a bartender down there.
They got swinging doors.
It's like they got saloon doors. It's a Western saloon underwater. Like
because it's a Western saloon, they got
the cowboys are even dressed like cowboys.
Yeah.
So they have this big Western style saloon brawl underwater.
Which makes sense. Like they're not going to shoot guns. It's underwater.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes no sense.
So guns. No. I mean, yeah, it makes no sense to shoot guns underwater, but it makes perfect sense to have a saloon underwater. So they're fighting, and one guy even gets thrown through a window, doesn't he?
Yes. Somehow someone gets thrown through a window.
And Nick beats Nigel.
Yep. Yep.
And he gets out of the he swims back up out of the water.
I love how like he turns to the guys at the table and he gives him a little salute.
He gives him a little salute. Run for fun. Go back and listen to our Back to the Future 3 episode.
Please go back and listen to that one. Doesn't get enough love. So he gets up and like now you get back and she's gotten to the plane with everybody else and they're about to say, well, we're about to leave, and that's when Nick shows back up just in time.
And it's funny because after this underwater fight, we never see Nigel again.
What happened to him?
Did he just drown? Did he stay underwater and drown? Or did he get picked up by another Russian boat?
I don't know. There was never a sequel to this movie. And then Nick's, he's about to leave. And then all of a sudden, Hillary decides like she's going to go with him.
Yep. She's going to go with him back to America.
And at first she doesn't want to go.
Yeah, at first she doesn't want to go because she doesn't want to leave her dad. But Dr. Flamand,
Casablanca style speech.
Yes, gives her a Casablanca style speech, and she ends up deciding to go with Nick.
It's like the opposite of what happens in Casablanca.
Yeah.
No, go.
Yeah.
Go with the one you really want to go with.
Yeah. So,
and then, but it's it's like there's a whole reason of things to stay, and then it's just trying to say like, oh no, but like I'm needed here. For as long as a single man is forced to cower under the iron fist of oppression, as long as a child cries out in the night, or an actor can be elected president.
Yeah, or an actor can be elected president.
Reference to Ronald Reagan, he was a president. I mean, he was, anyway. So
he was the president in 1984.
He must continue the struggle. And then finally, her dad convinces her to go. And then the other guys, too, the resistance, like, no, we'll hear his voice on Music of America. We'll hear it in the hearts of people and in elevators everywhere.
I love that.
It's so good that, like, Dubois, he's, like, on a stretcher standing up. He looks at it when he says it. It's like, he's confused. What is elevator music? He sounds nothing like Kenny G or Anya or Yanni.
Oh yeah.
And then of course, she's scared. It's like, oh, things change, people change, hairstyles change. I want you to be with me, but
Interest rates fluctuate.
Interest rates fluctuate.
And she decides to go, and she says her goodbyes. Goodbye, chocolate mousse. I'll never forget you. Goodbye, Duquois. Take care of yourself. Goodbye, deja vu. I will always remember you. Always remember deja vu, right?
They had to throw another deja vu joke in there.
And finally, I'll miss you most, Scarecrow.
Miss you most, Scarecrow.
And then the creepiest Scarecrow of all time is just there hugging her.
Yes.
And they get on the plane, and it flies off, and then the end.
And by the way, the Scarecrow was played by Richard Bonehill.
I missed. Yeah, I missed that actor's name. Dick Bonehill. Oh my! He was also a stuntsman.
Yeah, so
like souffle. Oh, he was also in Return of the Jedi. He was a stormtrooper.
Oh,
in that and in Empire Strikes Back.
Look at that.
He was a fencer as well.
All right.
Oh, because he's a fencer, of course he was in Rob Roy.
Oh yes.
Oh, and he's in one of our other. Oh, he was in Highlander.
Oh. All right. So that means Richard Bonehill will show up in more movies that we're going to be doing.
We should do Rob Roy, by the way.
Oh, yes.
We're referencing Highlander.
Absolutely.
We should do Rob
Absolutely,
Roy
we should do Rob Roy.
But yeah, the end comes up. And that's the end of the movie.
Yes. The plane flies away, at the end in, classic cinema style.
Yeah, very classic cinema. Yeah, very classic style.
The end. And the credits roll.
Gosh.
And that is top secret.
Movie's hilarious.
And I know we missed most of the jokes, probably.
Yeah. Forgive us.
But that just means you need to go back and watch it if you didn't watch it already, or if you have watch it again and catch more that you didn't catch the first time. But this movie is so funny. It is laugh out loud funny.
Yeah.
This time around, I was over at my parents' house last weekend, and we were watching it because every once in a while I'll go over there on the weekends and we'll watch. A lot of times we'll watch if it's a movie that I think they would enjoy too that we're doing on the podcast. I usually watch it with them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And both of my parents were laughing throughout this movie.
So, I thought, again, this is pre-PG-13, so it's probably, is it a PG movie or R? I don't know. Well, here's the thing. We forgot this. There's a calendar in the doctor's cell or his lab area. That's one of the
has a naked lady
calendars you see, like, you think of like a mechanic shop.
Yes.
So... But I didn't even think about that.
And it's funny.
I saw because there's cod pieces, and
it's funny because in that scene when he walks over to the calendar, because this is that's shown right after we meet Flamand.
Yes,
right after Flamand shows up on screen, he walks over and you see the calendar there. And it was at that moment that the calendar is shown that my mom asked, "Is she his daughter?" Meaning, is Hillary his daughter?
Yeah,
but it was at the same time that the calendar showed up. So, since she didn't use any names, my first thought was, no, the girl on the calendar is not his daughter. Why would he have a picture of his daughter naked on his calendar? Then I realized what she was asking. I'm like,
he waited till that was off screen. He's like, yes.
Yeah.
Fair question. Separated from the calendar. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So,
but
yeah,
there's so many things we probably missed.
It is so funny. It's such a funny movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching it. If you want just a good laugh, a laugh out loud movie. It was just a bunch of random humor.
I mean, the Zuckers and Abrams, they did it differently. I mean, again, they didn't do a whole lot, which is probably the way it should have. Yeah. Probably the way it is best.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's a shame that it's so overlooked because there were so many great movies in '84. so many great comedies that, you know, some of them have to be overshadowed by the others. And, you know, on the one hand, that's a shame that this one was, you know, overshadowed. But at the same time, like you were saying earlier, it makes it that much more special. The fact that it's not as well known as something like Ghostbusters or Police Academy.
Here's your top 10 for 1984 movies in terms of box. This is box office.
Okay.
And we're using the North American box office here. Beverly Hills Cop was number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Ghostbusters was 2. Temple of Doom was 3. Gremlins was 4. Karate Kid was 5. Police Academy was 6. Footloose was 7. Romancing the Stone was 8. Search for Spock was 9. And Splash was 10.
That's a solid list.
Yeah. Like, even Splash. I mean, that's a Tom Hanks class. And John Candy, Daryl Hannah. Like, yeah, that's a good list.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, goodness. I don't even know what this movie is. I ended up seeing the Golden Raspberries for that year.
Uh-huh.
And there was a movie called Sahara with Brooke Shields. And she apparently won the Best Supporting Actor at the Golden Raspberries that year. And the attached to it says, Brooke Shields with a mustache.
With a mustache? Wouldn't it be Worst Supporting Actress, though? If it's the Golden Raspberries?
Maybe she's playing a male role.
Because the Golden Raspberries are usually for like the worst of things.
Yeah.
It's usually the opposite of the Oscars.
It is, yes. I mean, there's other movies that year that, you know, these aren't necessarily comedies, but like, you think, look at this. Like, the David Lynch Dune came out that year. I'm a fan of Amadeus, which is what won Best Picture that year. Once Upon a Time in America, I know a lot of people love that one. 16 Candles, thinking about John Hughes, right? The Terminator came out in 84.
Yes, it did. So many great movies in that year.
Oh, yeah. I almost even forgot about like Nightmare on Elm Street came out that year. Thinking about another comedy that year. This is Spinal Tap. Revenge of the Nerds. We talked about last week. Robert Redford, The Natural. Tom Hanks' classic Bachelor Party. We've talked about Red Dawn. Red Dawn was 84.
Oh, we haven't talked about the movie. We've mentioned it. We don't have an episode about it yet.
Yep.
I'm sure that one's coming, though.
Prince classic Purple Rain.
Yeah.
Muppets Take Manhattan. Chuck Norris and Missing in Action.
Yes. Where he rises up from the river with an M60.
I love the poster for that movie, too.
Yes.
Conan and Destroyer. Come on. Oh.
So many great movies.
Children of the Corn. Not a great movie, but a classic horror movie. Wow. We're getting way too long because we haven't talked about what we're doing next.
Yes. No, we haven't. But first, if you want to follow us on social media, check us out on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. There's Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. The and is spelled out, A-N-D. It's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast. Or you can look for us on X or Twitter. That is RNT Cinematic. And we are also on Letterboxd. So if you want to check out some of our reviews on movies, some we've done on the podcast, some we haven't done, some we will do, some we won't do. But that is Cine Adventure or Sign Adventure, C-I-N-E Adventure. And you can send us an email at robandtonyscinematicadventure@gmail.com. Once again, the and is spelled out, A-N-D. It's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast. But yeah, shoot us an email. Let us know what you thought of Top Secret. Is it your favorite Zucker Brothers movie? Is it your least favorite Zucker Brothers movie?
Do you want us to do Airplane and The Naked Gun? Because we could do those.
Yes, we can.
I'm not opposed to that.
Me neither. Just let us know what you think. Or if there's any other questions, comments, concerns that you have, let us know. And if you enjoy what you're listening to, then go to our social media accounts, like and subscribe,
comment,
and follow and comment, and go to your favorite podcasting app.
Share it.
Yeah. And, hit that subscribe button. Give us a good rating, a good review. Give us some good comments on there. That's how we move up in the standings, in the search, in the recommendations, all that stuff. So that we can reach a wider audience and more people can hear these great conversations that we have about these movies that we love doing so much, that we love talking about.
Yes.
And that leads us to, since the great Gene Hackman...
The great Gene Hackman. And we'll get to this next week.
The day of recording this episode is when he passed.
So wasn't enough time to obviously watch a movie and then be able to discuss it in the way we would want to.
Yeah, so we are going to do that for the next episode. We're going to do a Gene Hackman movie as sort of a tribute to him, kind of like we did with Carl Weathers and James Earl Jones. It'll be sort of in the same vein there, where we will do a Gene Hackman movie next as sort of a tribute to him. Tony, why don't you tell people what that movie is going to be?
Well, we discussed it. We had a few ideas. there's a lot to get into. And he's won 2 Oscars, and was in 2 Oscar winners. Both of his wins were in Oscar winners for Best Picture. But we want to stay away from the Best Pictures. For myself, I like to think of Gene Hackman in some ways and some of his kind of 90s kind of thriller movies. And so we had a few options. And we're going to do Crimson Tide, the Tony Scott directed movie, brother of Ridley Scott. That also stars Denzel Washington, submarine classic.
Yes. And that is a movie that I have not seen, so it'll be great to watch it finally, and we can talk about it. There's been a few movies lately that I haven't seen before we did it for the podcast.
A lot of the ones I've seen recently, I may have seen, but I've only seen like once.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a long time. And so this is Crimson Tide falls into that. I've seen it once, and it's been a very long time. So yeah, I think it'll be a good one to do. And there are many options to choose from, and we can discuss that next week.
Yep.
But I think it'll
just because we didn't choose one of those other options for now doesn't mean that we're not going to do them in the future.
That's right.
We still will most likely cover at least some of those options.
I think it's a good one to roll with.
I do too. So join us next time for Crimson Tide.